The 19th century was an era comprised of literary geniuses. From Arnold to Longfellow, from Hardy to Poe, from Whitman to Tennyson, and from Keats to both Shelleys, among many others, there was no lack of creativity. But one man stood apart from all the rest. He was an Irishman by birth, but first became a household name in England. He was self-assured, sharp-minded, and he made people love him. But in the 1800s, the only suitable union was between a man and a woman. Homosexuality was far from being accepted. Always the individual, he refused to let society's views control his personal life. Please join me as we delve into the story of a man who encouraged his audience to be yourself. Everyone else is already taken. He's one of my favorite writers, and his name is Oscar Wilde.
A literary success? I'm practically a literary phenomenon. I've written plays and poems and, well, I'm extremely witty too. Oh, what the heck, I'll grace you with one of my quotes. I'm sure you want to hear one anyways. Let's see, what's a good one? Ah, yes. Man is least himself when he talks in his own person. Give him a mask, and he will tell you the truth. Oh, I'm so wonderful. I'm probably the most brilliant person alive. Oh, well, now that I think about it, I'm probably the most brilliant person to ever walk the planet. Yes, well, some say I'm cocky or arrogant, and, well, quite frankly, I have to agree. Oh, yes, well, in this spirit, let's take a look at 3 of my major works. You see, I wrote 9 plays and 1 novel, several poems and essays and short stories too, but one of my best works was The Picture of Dorian Gray, which was my first novel and only novel, and the best novel in the world. And it was about a man by the name of Dorian Gray, as the title might suggest, who had a portrait made of himself. And the portrait aged, but he did not, which worked out quite well for him until the end of the novel. Now, whenever it was published, the critics were quite critic about it. Oh yes, they said that it dabbled in homosexuality. Oh dear. And I explained that it was part of the aesthetic movement, which is art. For art's sake, nothing less, nothing more, that's just what it is, but they did not quite agree with that. And, well, you see, I also wrote several plays, but the most known of them possibly is The Importance of Being Earnest, which is about a young man who seemingly lives a double life, and it was received quite well. It was funny and, of course, witty, and I wrote it, so of course it was going to be fantastic. Oh yes, but it was full of twists and turns, and it was just wonderful. And of course I write poetry as well, and I'm sure you're dying to hear some, so wow, I just happen to have my computer right here. What a wonderful coincidence. You see, yes, I use my computer to write all of my poetry on. Miss Eichmann, I didn't quite find a citation for that, but since I'm saying it, I'm sure it happened. Anyways, this is called Alas, and it's one of my best poems, although they're all superb because they're written by me. But anyways, we'll go on with this. To drift with every passion till my soul is a strengthened lute on which all winds can play. Is it for this that I have given away mine ancient wisdom and austere control? Methinks my life is a twice written scroll, scrawled over on some boyish holiday, with idle songs for pipe and virelay, which do but mar the secret of the whole. Surely there was a time I might have trod the sunlit heights, and from life's dissonance struck one clear chord to reach the ears of God. Is that time dead? Lo! With a little rod I did but touch the honey of romance. And must I lose a soul's inheritance? Oh my goodness, I am so wonderful! Oh, please, please, just give me a moment while I bask in my own glory.
Oscar Wilde seemed to have it all. Success, a supportive wife, and 2 adorable little boys. But one thing was missing. One thing that only the affection of another man could bring him. His name was Lord Alfred Douglas, but to Oscar Wilde, he was simply Bosie.
I first met Oscar Wilde when I was 22, and he was 15 years my elder. I was delighted that such a talented writer would have an interest in me. He liked me for my youthfulness and spunk. I liked him for his big, thick, bulging wallet. My father said that if I continued my friendship with Mr. Wilde, he would write me out of his will. So I did. Others say I'm spoiled. I say that I'm accustomed to the finer things in life, the good things in life. I get what I want. Oscar Wilde is the most chivalrous friend in the world. For example, sometimes I'd tell him I wanted some cash. He'd say no. I'd tell him I was going to go hurt myself because of it. I told him the same when he said he didn't like what I wrote. But one thing that I did write was 2 loves. Unfortunately, the poem got him in trouble in the trials of 1895. But it was one of my better works, so I'd like to read some of it to you. What is thy name? He said, My name is Love. Then straight the first did turn himself to me and cried, He lieth, for his name is Shame, but I am Love. And I was wont to be alone in the garden, till he came unasked by night. I am true love. I fill the hearts of boy and girl with mutual flame. Then sighing, said the other, Have thy will. I am the love that dare not speak its name.
There were many people who adored Oscar Wilde, but one man who did not find such an affection for him was the lawyer in the trials of 1895.
On April 3rd in 1895, Oscar Wilde prosecuted Lord Alfred Douglas's father for libel. He had accused Oscar Wilde of being a sodomite. Sir Edward Clarke, which was Oscar Wilde's lawyer, downplayed the allegations head-on, reading letters from Oscar Wilde to Lord Alfred Douglas. Now, these letters were thought to be homosexual, but Clarke said that they were simply artistic expression because Oscar Wilde was a poet. When Oscar Wilde first took the stand, he lied about his age, saying that he was 39 instead of 41. What a funny fellow. Ha 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 ha. He also lied convincingly about the accusations brought up against him. Edward Carson was the defense attorney, and he was also a rival of Oscar Wilde at Trinity College. And he cross-examined Oscar Wilde and broke it into 2 parts, which was a factual part and a literary part. The literary part involved letters from Oscar Wilde to Lord Alfred Douglas, and also The Picture of Dorian Gray, a novel by Oscar Wilde. It also involved phrases and philosophies for use of the young, a work by Wilde as well. These were thought to be homosexual in nature. Oscar Wilde said that they were simply artistic, but he became visibly uncomfortable when Carson said that he could bring witnesses to the stand that would speak against Oscar Wilde. Now this was a problem because of the Criminal Law Amendment Act of 1895, which said that relationships of the same sex were a criminal offense, and they used the term gross indecency. The next day, Oscar Wilde withdrew his charges for libel. Now on April 26th of 1895, the first criminal trial of Oscar Wilde took place. And he took the witness stand on the fourth day, and he was not as cocky as he was when he was on the prosecuting end, because now obviously he was on the defense end. And Charles Gill, he was the prosecuting attorney at this time, and he read a poem by Lord Alfred Douglas entitled Two Loves. And Oscar Wilde's answer, whenever asked what he thought of the poem, was the most popular part of the trial. Woohoo! The jury deliberated for over 3 hours, but they couldn't really come to any good decisions. And so on May the 7th of 1895 still, Oscar Wilde was released on bail. Now the next trial was headed by me. And I am the top prosecuting attorney in England. My name is Solicitor General Frank Lockwood, and I'm amazing. Ha ha ha. I focused mainly on the best witnesses and kicked the other ones off to the curb. Now the jury again deliberated for another 3 hours. I'm sure they had a blast because everyone loves jury duty. They found Oscar Wilde guilty on all charges except those relating to a man named Edward Shelley. Woohoo! Hey, do you have something to say about this? Wow, I think she does. What would you like to say? Would you like to tell the audience that loves rough? Ha ha, ha ha. Take that, Oscar Wilde.
Even though Oscar Wilde lived over 100 years ago, there are still many lessons that writers today can learn from him.
Oscar Wilde, as wild as could be. Oscar Wilde, he was so witty. Oscar Wilde, a mind so free. Oscar Wilde, just as awesome as me. There's so much that people today could learn from that man. He was quick-witted and clever and had so many fans. He was smart and funny, but could be cynical too. Yes, writers today should strive to have so many creative avenues. He led by his words, but also his examples. Over his works, he'd let no one trample. He was himself and would change for no soul. Writers today should strive to be just as individual. One thing he did really well was he made his words flow. Whether in a quote or a play or a poem, he was such a brilliant fellow. He was a contradiction to society in those days. Writers today could learn so much from his non-conforming ways. If I could have changed anything, it would have been the outcome of his trials. Yet, writers are particular about revisions. Their technique is their style. Oscar Wilde was confident and strong-willed, now that I can guarantee. And although he was all of those things, he was never as amazing as me.